and welcome to NTD News Today. I'm Evelyn Lee, and here are today's top stories. Gas prices are up ahead of the holidays. President Biden trying to offer some relief at the pump. We have an analysis on his release of oil reserves. U.S. airlines and airports prepare for a surge of travelers ahead of Thanksgiving. As vaccination rates have risen, many Americans are traveling for the holidays. Transportation officials are beginning to see new funding from Biden's infrastructure bill. A new plan is on the horizon for the city of Baltimore, boosted by a grant of $22 million. And plaintiffs in a Virginia court case win $26 million in damages. The jury ruled against the organizers of a 2017 rally in Charlottesville, which turned violent when a man drove into a crowd of counter-protesters. Americans are unhappy about gas prices, especially ahead of the holidays. NTD's Jessica Beatty takes a look at President Biden's efforts to ease prices.
High gas prices are chipping away at consumer budgets. AAA says gas prices are at about $3.40 per gallon, more than 60% higher than a year ago. Travelers on the East Coast are gritting their teeth.
I don't like it, but we have things that we have to do, so we just have to deal with it. I don't even like to look at the price when I'm done filling up my tank.
We're limited on what we can do, really, because of the gas prices.
In a bid to lower gas prices, President Biden Tuesday ordered the release of oil from the nation's strategic reserves. 50 million barrels will soon hit the market. That's about 3 days of U.S. domestic oil consumption.
It will take time, but before long, you should see the price of gas drop where you fill up your tank.
The Strategic Petroleum Reserve, or SPR, is an emergency stockpile to preserve access to oil in case of natural disasters or national security issues. But analyst Claudio Galimberti at Rystad Energy says we don't really have a supply problem right now.
So we are not in the middle of a hurricane. We just have very high oil prices. And SPR were not built with the idea of saving the American consumer a few dollars.
Galimberti says it's only a temporary measure, and it's unlikely to change the supply-demand mismatch.
So in a nutshell, an oil production increase would have been much more effective.
The Energy Secretary says they are encouraging an increase in oil production in the short term, looking to green energy in the long term.
We want to see more production, both domestically as well as internationally in this, so that we can relieve people's pain at the pump.
Republicans argue it's Biden's policies that are keeping prices high, like nixing the Keystone Pipeline and freezing new oil and gas drilling leases. The chief economist of American Petroleum Institute agrees. He says oil companies are reluctant to invest more when the administration signals it wants to move off fossil fuels in the foreseeable future. Jessica Beatty, NTD News.
U.S. airlines and airports are bracing for a surge of travelers ahead of Thanksgiving. They're hoping for good weather and smooth flying as millions of Americans visit family and friends for the holiday. NTD's Andrew Thomas reports.
The Transportation Security Administration said on Sunday that it had screened 2.2 million passengers, the fourth consecutive day with checkpoint volume topping 2 million. The TSA added that Friday was the single busiest air travel day since the start of the pandemic in March 2020.
I am traveling for Thanksgiving, going up to see my daughter in Seattle, and so far so good. It was a little tricky finding parking, but it doesn't seem too crazy busy just yet.
At Los Angeles International Airport, passenger numbers were steady. Many Thanksgiving travelers said they came to the airport early to beat the crowds.
Yeah, so I'm actually traveling to the East Coast, Washington, D.C., and I was just told to be here almost 3 hours before my flight just because it was going to be really busy. So far, it doesn't look too bad, so hopefully I'll get to the gate just in time.
As vaccination rates have risen, many Americans are traveling for the holidays after skipping family gatherings last November and December.
Actually, I'm kind of surprised. I thought it would be a lot worse. I thought it would be definitely a lot more people here, but I'm sure still with the whole, pandemic and our new normal trying to transition, there's some people that's stepping out, as you can see, but there's still a lot that haven't as of yet.
TSA expects to screen about 20 million passengers during the busy Thanksgiving travel period, compared with nearly 26 million in 2019.
No, I've actually seen it Like, take the amount of people that you have in here and times that by like 2, and that's like what I've seen it around Christmas. So it's like, yes, it's busy, but I've definitely seen it much worse.
Delta Airlines said it expects to fly up to 5.6 million passengers from Friday through November 30th. United Airlines said it anticipates more than 4.5 million passengers this Thanksgiving weekend. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
And President Biden and First Lady Jill helped a local food kitchen prepare Thanksgiving meals for the needy. Then they headed out to spend the holiday in Nantucket Island in Massachusetts. Vice President Kamala Harris and husband Doug Emhoff joined the Bidens. Together with kitchen staff, they served food at the D.C. Central Kitchen yesterday. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki was asked about the Bidens' Nantucket trip. She defended the president's decision to leave Washington for the holiday by saying that Thanksgiving is a time to put politics aside, spend time with your loved ones, and talk about what you're grateful for. She also noted that Biden is president wherever he is. And disrupted supply chains are leading to shortages, and inflation is making everything more expensive. But those conditions aren't standing in the way of holiday shoppers who have already started their spending sprees.
It's been a blockbuster season for retailers. Sales rose by 1.7% just last month, beating expectations.
The consumer is shopping earlier, and they've been shopping earlier, and we think that they'll continue that pattern throughout the holiday season.
The biggest shopping day of the year is still Black Friday.
Thank you so much.
But Lowe's has been running sales since October, trying to capitalize on the 46% of shoppers who plan to buy earlier than normal this year.
We're seeing consumers really move up their holiday shopping timeline, not just for this historical trend, but also because of some concerns around supply chain disruptions and inventory issues.
And there's no indication 30-year record inflation is stopping shoppers from spending.
We are expecting for the overall holiday shopping season that retail sales will grow somewhere between 8.5% and 10.5%, which is certainly much higher growth than the level of inflation.
And it's not just growth, but record spending, up to nearly $860 billion in the last 2 months of 2021. 2 million more people are expected to shop from Thanksgiving Day through Cyber Monday this year compared to last.
Those are the trends we're certainly seeing as it relates to how the shopping pattern is happening at Lowe's right now.
The total is $34.56, please.
But the surge in early holiday shopping is overwhelming some smaller retailers. Brandy DeEsso, owner of the Little Apple in Philadelphia, says supply chain issues delayed key holiday merchandise.
2 of my large orders I ended up having to cancel.
And while she says she's had to raise prices to offset higher freight costs, she says shoppers are still buying and is expecting a larger than normal crowd on Black Friday.
People are still coming to shop small on Black Friday as well, which has been a new phenomenon that's just started in the last couple of years.
But there may be another phenomenon for early shopping, and lots of it this holiday season. Something that can't be defined by a number or economic indicator.
The holidays, of course, bring people together, and that's the spirit that, people are trying to capture. And by coming out and shopping and buying gifts and things that are special and thinking of their loved ones, I think people have just been craving that for so long. Now they finally feel comfortable enough to do it again.
And as we're approaching Thanksgiving, Americans are stocking up on food and supplies for the big day. But have you been able to find your favorite wine or spirit? Glass bottles are in short supply, and it's putting pressure on wine and spirits companies ahead of the holidays. NTD's Faye Quarter has the details.
The supply chain crisis has spread to the U.S. wine industry. International freight delays, labor shortages, and higher costs are making it harder for glass suppliers to meet demand for bottles.
What a lot of the companies in the spirits industry are experiencing is definitely a shortage of bottles.
We're kind of stuck, and it's impacted us not tremendously, but it has been significant.
California-based Water's Edge Wineries is experiencing the glass supply bottleneck right now. Around 2010, the company started getting most of its bottles from China.
That was all well and good until we hit the pandemic and now the shipping and logistical issues. We found that our suppliers have just had a terrible time not only getting their containers over the ocean, but then, of course, getting them offloaded at the ports.
The CEO of Water's Edge Wineries, Ken Lineberger, says the bottle shortage has hit the sparkling wine sector especially hard.
And they couldn't produce any sparkling for about a period of, I would guess, around 90 days. And that really put a crimp in because that's a significant portion of our supply.
The chief economist for the Distilled Spirits Council, David Osgo, says, in the short term, you may need to spend more time and effort to find what you're looking for.
You might have to go to the package store more than once just to see when it's coming in.
Osgo says we're in a golden age with over 16,000 different spirits products being marketed in the United States right now. He says seize the opportunity to try something new and different. Faye Quarter, NTD News.
Federal transportation officials are mapping out how to spend Biden's $1 trillion infrastructure funds. In one Maryland city, a $22 million investment is already in place.
This project we're celebrating here.
U.S. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg visited Baltimore Tuesday. City officials celebrated as he unveiled a $22 million grant from Biden's infrastructure bill. This investment will go toward boosting the city's public transit system along a 10-mile stretch, a project dubbed the East-West Priority Corridor.
And this means shorter commutes, less congestion, fewer carbon emissions, as well as more jobs, including for communities that depend on public transit the most.
Buttigieg says the project will lead to faster, more reliable transit services for residents. The corridor features 10 miles of dedicated bus lanes. More than 100 bus stops along the route will see improvements. The project will also benefit an estimated 180,000 jobs along its route. Biden's new infrastructure law funds $7 billion for the RAISE program, or Rebuilding American Infrastructure with Sustainability and Equity. Maryland expects to receive at least $1.8 billion for public transportation.
And President Biden's infrastructure law includes $23 billion in new grant opportunities for transit expansion. New York Governor Kathy Hochul hopes that some of that money will go towards the expansion of an unfinished subway line in New York City. NTD's Jason Perry has that story.
I'm here in Harlem, and I'm underground at the 2nd Avenue subway station, which is unfinished, as you can see, and has been this way since the 1970s. Governor Kathy Hochul hopes to use some federal funding from the infrastructure bill to help finish this project. She said there was untapped potential beneath the city streets for decades.
The vision started in Harlem back in the 20s, and they were so close. And all of a sudden, something happened that was unforeseen, which was the Great Depression. That sidetracked it again. They were ready to go in 1939, and World War II slowed it down. Then they were ready to go in the 1970s, and the financial crisis of that era slowed it down again. So finally, in 2021, and hopefully approvals very soon will allow us to announce the start of it in 2022.
New York has put in an application for federal funding to finish the project, and Hochul hopes it will be approved by the end of this year or early next year.
Overall, we're rethinking the transit experience from Penn Station to new investments in our subways and buses, making our systems accessible, safe, and reliable, and making sure that we protect the overall health of our communities. So this has been a tremendous collaborative effort. I love working with my partners in Washington. I've worked with them literally as one of them for a long time. I know how hard they work, but to be able to get this over the finish line during my administration is going to be so exciting, and I cannot wait to get started. So, ladies and gentlemen, next stop, 125th Street. Yeah. And with that,
the governor says Harlem is the most public transit dependent neighborhood in all of New York City, with over 70% of workers using public transit to get to work. She hopes the 2nd Avenue subway station will be finished in the next 6 to 8 years. Jason Perry, NTD News, New York.
A federal jury on Tuesday found that pharmacies operated by CVS, Walgreens, and Walmart helped fuel an opioid epidemic. This is the first trial the companies have faced over the U.S. drug crisis. Jurors in a Cleveland federal court concluded that the pharmacy chains helped create a public nuisance in 2 Ohio counties.
At trial, lawyers for Lake and Trumbull counties argued that the pharmacies failed to ensure opioid prescriptions were valid and allowed excessive quantities of addictive pain pills to flood their communities. The pharmacy operators, among the largest in the United States, denied the allegations and blamed others, including doctors, regulators, and drug traffickers, for the epidemic. The trial was the first that any pharmacies had faced over an epidemic that the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention last week said led to over 100,000 fatal drug overdoses in just the 12-month period ending April 2021. The jury in the Ohio trial assessed liability, not punishment. It is up to a U.S. district judge to decide how much the companies should owe. The county's lawyers have said the costs are potentially $1 billion for each county.
A federal jury in Charlottesville, Virginia, has decided on the fate of the 2017 Unite the Right rally organizers. It's found them liable for injuries sustained by counter-protesters and awarded around $26 million in damages. The 9 plaintiffs in the case say they suffered physical or emotional trauma at the rally. That includes 4 people who were struck when a self-described neo-Nazi drove his car into a crowd of counter-protesters. After a 4-week trial, the jury ruled in favor of the victims on 4 of 6 counts, but was unable to come to a unanimous verdict on the other 2. The rally followed months of protests over the city's plan to remove a statue of Confederate General Robert E. Lee. A 6th person, a child, has died in the aftermath of that parade crash in Wisconsin, and the suspect appears in court for the first time after the weekend rampage. Here's the update.
Darrell Brooks, the suspect in the Waukesha parade crash, is appearing in court for the first time since the weekend rampage. In that crash, 6 people died and 48 others were injured, including at least 18 children.
You're charged in count 1 with first-degree intentional homicide. That's a Class A felony, and that has a maximum possible penalty of being sentenced to imprisonment for life.
The 39-year-old was charged with 5 counts of intentional homicide. A prosecutor on Tuesday says he faces 5 consecutive life sentences if he's convicted on all counts.
Today we learned of another death of a child.
Jackson Sparks, an 8-year-old boy, has died from injuries suffered in the Sunday tragedy. His family made the announcement Tuesday afternoon before the hearing. He is the 6th victim.
We do expect a 6th count for first-degree intentional homicide to be issued or added.
The Waukesha mayor has spoken out against the accused.
I believe that he'll be in prison for the rest of his life, based upon what I know about this. I can't imagine anything other than that happening.
A criminal complaint released Tuesday further details what happened on Sunday. According to the complaint, a police officer witnessed Brooks's vehicle take an abrupt left turn into the crowd, making it clear that, quote, this was an intentional act to strike and hurt as many people as possible. Another witness indicates that the car continued to drive in a zigzag motion as if the SUV was trying to avoid vehicles, not people. As charges are being rolled out, new questions emerge.
We have no information that Brooks knew anybody in the parade.
While people have ruled out terrorism as a motive, Waukesha Police Chief Dan Thompson says Brooks's real motive for crashing into the crowd remains unclear. Another question lingers around Brooks's release from jail less than 2 weeks ago. He allegedly ran a car over a woman, but was later out on a $1,000 bond, an amount authorities now call inappropriately low. As the community seeks solace and holds vigils, dozens injured are still clinging to life.
If your child is injured, it's not easy.
1 child has died, and at least 10 kids were in intensive care on Monday. According to a GoFundMe campaign, a girl named Jesselyn lost a kidney and her pelvis was fractured in the crash. She remains in critical condition as of Tuesday afternoon. A Wisconsin commissioner set the bail for Brooks at $5 million.
A New Jersey man pleads guilty to a wire charge in federal court for his role in a GoFundMe scam. The man in the middle, Mark D'Amico, was the ringleader in the scam. It ended up raising nearly $400,000 in 2017. He and his then-girlfriend, Kate McClure, made up a heartwarming but false story. They said a homeless vet called Johnny Bobbitt Jr. spent his last $20 helping McClure fill up her gas tank while she was stranded in Philadelphia. The former couple spent the money from the campaign on trips, a car, and other luxury items. In March 2019, both McClure and Bobbitt pleaded guilty to conspiracy to commit wire fraud and conspiracy to commit money laundering. Both are waiting to be sentenced. D'Amico faces a max penalty of 20 years in prison. His sentencing is scheduled for March 2022. California isn't telling the public what their tax dollars are being spent on. Controller Betty Yee says it's because the data would take too long to gather. But the CEO of OpenTheBooks.com isn't convinced. NTD Sun Ma has more.
California refuses to tell the public what it's spending their tax dollars on. OpenTheBooks.com is suing to get access to the state's records.
A very basic copy of state spending. We call it the California checkbook. And what it entails is the line-by-line transactions, how the state spent taxpayer money in the previous year.
Adam Andrzejewski is the CEO and founder of OpenTheBooks.com. Andrzejewski says California Controller Betty Yee rejected his requests back in 2019, prompting the lawsuit.
California Controller Betty Yee is acting like she has a lot to hide. Their arguments in the California Superior Court have been mystifying. For example, one of their primary arguments is they can't locate any of the 50 million bills that they paid last year. They also argue in front of the judge that they, quote unquote, don't have a checkbook.
In a letter, Yee says that the state controller's office does not maintain a centralized vendor contract database, and that contracts are paid for directly by the contracting agency, of which there are approximately 500. Andrzejewski isn't convinced, as he's already received records from all other 49 states.
Our lawsuit is historic. California has always been a black box. That's not right, and this suit would force open the line-by-line spending in the Golden State.
Andrzejewski says the case is now in the judge's hands. Don Ma, NTD News.
Still to come, Santas are back at malls in downtown California. And this year, some kids may even get to share their Christmas wishes up close after social distancing marked last year's festivities. And the next generation James Webb Space Telescope. Scientists target a December 18th launch for the much-delayed Next Generation Observatory, towering 3 stories tall. That and more on NTD News.
Secure, the true solution for your digital privacy and security. Secure is a private and secure messaging and email solution hosted in Switzerland, using military-grade encryption and Swiss privacy laws, giving you true privacy. Secure is 100% private and does not collect or sell any of your personal data. Secure's Helix technology connects you securely to our Swiss servers without the need of a VPN, guaranteeing privacy and security for all your communications. Secure Messenger doesn't require your phone number or any personal data that hackers target. Chat by Invites allows you to chat privately and securely with anyone outside of your secure network without the need for others to download Secure. Secure Send offers you a private and secure way to email anyone outside of Secure. You won't find this level of privacy or security on any other email or instant messaging application. Visit secure.com. Regain and protect your privacy today.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, the CEO of MyPillow. Cancel culture has not only affected myself and MyPillow, but millions of you out there. My employees and I want to personally thank each and every one of you for all of your support. At MyPillow, we not only have pillows, but we have hundreds of products, including my new slippers, bathrobes, sleepwear, and my new beds. We're offering the best gifts ever for the best prices ever. For example, we have this exclusive offer on the standard size MyPillows, regularly $69.98, now only $19.98 with your promo code. We also have the queen size MyPillows, regularly $79.98, now only $24.98 with your promo code. And we have the king size, regularly $89.98, now only $29.98 with your promo code. So go to mypillow.com now and use the promo code on your screen or call the 1-800 number below to receive this exclusive offer.
The Defense Department wants to streamline its reporting on UFO sightings. A centralized group will now be charged with handling all reports. The group will standardize the process for reporting those incidents in the military and other government branches. Earlier this year, U.S. intelligence released a report detailing more than 140 sightings, mostly by Navy pilots. Officials did not find evidence of anything out of this world, nor major technological advancements by other countries. But the report concluded those objects, most of them unexplained, may pose a national security threat. And scientists are targeting a December 18th launch for the much-delayed next-generation James Webb Space Telescope. Last month, the telescope arrived at Europe's spaceport in French Guiana. Here's NTD's Andrew Thomas.
It's a next-generation observatory towering 3 stories tall, designed to peer further into space and further back into time than any other spacecraft. After countless delays, the James Webb Space Telescope is set to launch on December 18th.
James Webb Space Telescope is Hubble's scientific successor, and I like to think of it as NASA's vehicle for the deepest space exploration that humanity can do. It will allow us to see farther back in time to the time when the very first stars and galaxies were being born.
It's an international collaboration between NASA, the European Space Agency, and the Canadian Space Agency. Originally supposed to fly more than a decade ago, the telescope's launch has faced countless delays. The latest 7-month delay was due to the pandemic and technical issues.
To make sure any kind of spacecraft works, what we need to do is a lot of testing here on Earth before we launch it into space. And so we test things at the very smallest component level, and then we assemble them into larger structures, and we test it at that level, and we assemble them into even larger structures, and we test it at that level.
Experts say another significant obstacle to beginning scientific operations will come after launch, during a 6-month commissioning period, when the spacecraft will unfold its mirror, sun shield, and other smaller systems.
We've built a world-class infrared telescope. We've built it, we've aligned it, we've tested it, we've proved it worked. Now we're going to have to break it up, fold it up, and actually rebuild it on orbit, rebuild it, realign it, retune it, and get it to work robotically on orbit. That's never been done before.
The James Webb Space Telescope is set to soar on a European Ariane rocket this December. It will take about 1 month to fly to its intended orbital location, almost 1 million miles away from Earth. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
California's mall Santas are making a return this holiday season, and data shows Father Christmas is set to have quite the busy season. Let's take a look.
Santa is back at shopping centers in downtown California. Kids seem especially thrilled, having missed the festive scene last year.
Everything was done online last year, and there wasn't really that person-to-person contact or feeling of togetherness that you get, and that's what all the kids look forward to.
Based on a large Santa database, the number of these jolly old elves have dropped by 15%. This year, some will remain behind barriers set up for safety, while others plan to embrace full contact visits, lap sitting included.
Our Santa and the helpers are all vaccinated, and we require that while in the shopping center, people keep their masks on and social distance while visiting with Santa.
Santa will be busier than ever this holiday season. Many retailers are encouraging families to make reservations online in an effort to cut down on waiting lines.
They're really glad to share what they like for Christmas, and my 2-year-old daughter is gonna, probably meet Santa and for her first time. She's only 2, so I think it'll be like something for her to remember.
This year we have a new baby, so of course it's tradition to get the first picture.
Projections this year have almost 9 million households visiting Santa in person. Previous data show that more than half of those visitors also shop nearby.
The Biden administration has reportedly invited Taiwan to its Summit for Democracy next month. The move has infuriated China, which views the democratically governed island as its territory.
The first of its kind gathering is a test of President Biden's assertion, announced in his first foreign policy address in office in February, that he would return the United States to global leadership to face down authoritarian forces led by China and Russia. There are 110 participants on the State Department's invitation list for the virtual event, which aims to help stop democratic backsliding and the erosion of rights and freedoms worldwide. China and Russia are notably absent. Taiwan's foreign ministry said the government would be represented by its digital minister and Taiwan's de facto ambassador in Washington. China's foreign ministry said it was firmly opposed to the invite. Sharp differences over democratically governed Taiwan, which China considers its own territory, persisted during a virtual meeting earlier this month between Biden and Xi Jinping. The White House said that while Biden reiterated long-standing US support for the One China policy, he said he strongly opposes unilateral efforts to change the status quo or undermine peace and stability across the Taiwan Strait.
4 are dead in China following a 6-story building collapse in the south. Disaster struck in the middle of the night, adding fuel to the flame of criticism over China's poor construction standards and so-called tofu buildings. Elsewhere, a young man from Wuhan says he's cutting ties with the Chinese Communist Party with help from a US-based website. He joins around 400 million others that have done the same and tells us what sparked his journey. Here's NTD's Tiffany Meyer.
Reports of a residential building collapse are coming out of China. The incident killed 4 people in a case that echoes concerns over Chinese construction safety. The building served as a dormitory for local workers at a pharmaceutical plant located in the southern Chinese province of Jiangxi. The 6-story structure collapsed on Monday evening. Chinese state-run media reported that the search for victims concluded Tuesday morning. They confirmed all 4 people who had been buried in the debris had died. NTD cannot independently verify this information. Media reports also explained that a family living on the first floor started hearing strange noises right before the collapse. They managed to escape just in time. The building was built around 30 years ago in the 90s. The cause of the collapse is still under investigation. China has sought to improve construction quality and industrial safety. But accidents are still known to occur, with some companies cutting corners to lower costs. Tofu buildings have long been a big problem in China. The name comes from the quality of construction, which is said to be as unstable as tofu. Videos circulating online show some of these types of buildings. Over the weekends, part of a high-rise building's facade peeled off. And in Beijing, video shows a man scraping away at part of a wall with his bare hands. In the clip, someone asks, didn't they use any cement? As similar problems within China continue to surface, next we look at another issue tied to Beijing. 3 more Chinese people are speaking out about a major decision to quit the Chinese Communist Party. They join around 400 million Chinese people that have abandoned their ties to the CCP and its affiliated organizations. The 3 people announced their choice to quit through a US-based website hosted by the Global Service Center for Quitting the CCP. One of them is a young man from Wuhan. He declared he would cut ties with the party last month. He gave himself the pseudonym Xiang Yi to protect his identity and to keep himself and his family inside China safe. On the Toidang website, visitors to the page can quit the Communist Party via pseudonym. This method is widely used to avoid possible retaliation from Beijing. Yi says the whole process started last year. That's when he learned how to overcome China's internet blockade and visit websites that are censored in the country. He recounted feeling awful after reading about Beijing's early cover-up of the CCP virus, which causes COVID-19, especially considering his hometown of Wuhan, the epicenter of the initial outbreak. He also described researching Beijing's decision not to close its airports. That led to large numbers of people leaving the country, allowing the virus to spread quickly around the world. He calls the treatment of Wuhan citizens at the time inhuman.
In the early stages of pandemic prevention, the CCP treated us like animals, just shut us in at home. As for grocery supplies during lockdown, the videos posted online about garbage trucks transporting food are all true.
Alongside Yi's decision to quit the party, 2 others announced they would leave the Young Pioneers Organization. That's the Communist Party's youth organization. Almost all Chinese children are made to join the organization, with the youngest of them just 6 years old. Yang Li and Qingmen are among those who joined at young ages, but their views of the party began to shift when authorities forcibly demolished their homes.
Our own home was taken away by the party. We have been petitioning to defend our rights, but are constantly suppressed. We have seen through the evil party. It's a demon. We look forward to the day when the Communist Party will face punishment. We denounce our ties to its affiliated organization, the Young Pioneers.
The movement to quit the CCP began more than 10 years ago, organized by the Global Service Center for Quitting the Chinese Communist Party. It's headquartered in New York and has more than 100 service centers across the world. That's in addition to its web presence. The center seeks to educate people around the world about the dangers of communism.
And Colombia's armed forces seized 10 tons of cocaine. They also destroyed 2 drug labs. It's part of an anti-narcotics mission in the southeast of the country, and the largest shipment seized by authorities so far this year. The cocaine in the labs were found in a rural area near the border with Ecuador. The country's defense minister says leftist rebels could have sold the drugs for over $300 million. Despite decades of fighting against drug trafficking, Colombia remains a top global producer of cocaine. It faces constant pressure from the United States to lower the size of coca crops and cocaine production. Drug trafficking helps finance illegal armed groups in Colombia amid a long-running violent internal conflict. Colombia's military and police confiscated a record 550 tons of cocaine in 2020. And coming up, this year's Christmas markets in Germany see a blend of sadness and joy. Some of the beloved events will go on as planned, while others have to pack up due to a new pandemic surge. More on that in just a minute. The new Marvel Studios television series Hawkeye is set to premiere on Disney+. A new character features in the franchise's latest production. That and more on NTD News.
Last Friday, this guy stole a package right off my porch. Or at least that's what would have happened if I didn't have my Vivint Smart Security System. Instead, this is what really happened. System detects package. Thief walks up. System scares thief. Thief runs away. If your doorbell can't do this, you need a Vivint Smart Security System. Call 844-544-0866 today.
See China before communism. Behold a splendid culture reborn, filled with beauty, majesty, and a powerful message of hope. Come see the performance that has touched the hearts of millions, live on stage. Coming to West Palm Beach, Fort Lauderdale, and Miami, November 8th through January 9th. Tickets at shenyun.com/SFL.
You worked hard for your money. You invest in stability for your retirement and your family's future, to build and leave them with something greater. The next unprecedented financial crisis, political misstep, or unstable government can depreciate it all away. It was called the gold standard for a reason, the financial preservation of tomorrow. Diversify your assets against inflation, market volatility, and the unknown with real money. Hedge your wealth with the purest form of money, physical gold and silver. Because any currency printed on paper can be manipulated. What's backing up your IRA? Do what you need to do right now to be prepared with the Reagan Gold Group. Visit now, rggusakit.com, or call us at 866-912-1384. Receive up to $2,500 in free silver coins and a free safe with your new precious metals IRA. Call now.
Two German states have announced plans to cancel their traditional Christmas markets amid a new wave of the pandemic. But in other regions where infection rates are low, authorities are cautiously moving ahead with the events. Here's more.
At a historic square in central Berlin, visitors reach for their phones in the crisp November air to photograph the city's festive Christmas magic market. But the event is one of a lucky few. A fourth wave of the pandemic forced the closure of many other prominent markets in Germany.
We are of course happy that we can have a Christmas market this year after the pause last year, and we are really happy that the exhibitors have come and that they are not afraid that something will happen here.
A new set of rules known as 2G grants market access only to those who are vaccinated or who have recovered from the virus. Staff at the entrances scan vaccine passes and check for matching ID cards. The same requirements apply to the Christmas market in the city of Cologne.
I think what they are doing here in Cologne is super. It was already like this for Carnival, and they are checking up that 2G rules are being followed.
With a 2G symbol stamped on one hand, visitors don't need to wear masks or remain at a distance. Stand owners call it a better open and expect the new strategy to keep business up and running until the end of December. Though the situation is less rosy in the German state of Bavaria and neighboring Saxony, the two states worst affected by the pandemic. In Dresden, the capital of Saxony, shop owners had to dismantle their already erected market stalls and pack their decorations away once again.
Traurig, aber wahr. Good.
It's sad but true. Looks lovely, doesn't it?
Oh, ganz traurig. It's really sad because I think it could have been managed with the 2G rule. The stands would have been far enough apart. But it really hurts to see that they have to dismantle everything again, especially things that are ready to go.
Surging infections there have led to another wave of lockdowns in Saxony, where new daily cases have risen 14-fold in the past month.
Germany's highest peak opened for the winter season. Special COVID restrictions apply, including so-called 2G rules, which mean only people fully vaccinated against COVID-19 or who have recovered from the illness have access to the slopes. We've got more from NTD's Joy Duguid.
The slopes are open again at the Zugspitze, the highest mountain in Germany. Skiers wearing masks were seen riding chairlifts and getting onto cable cars as officials strictly enforced so-called 2G COVID rules. This means only vaccinated people or those who have recently recovered from COVID-19 are granted access. Some other adjustments were also made.
We have reduced the capacity in the cabins. For example, in the Zugspitze cable car to only 80 people instead of 120. In the rack railway, only seats may be occupied. And last but not least, there is a requirement to wear FFP2 face masks, which applies in queuing areas in the cabins and on all lifts.
Weather conditions are favourable.
Ja, mega. Also Wetter ist super. Mega. The weather is great. The snow is good, and of course we stay on the slopes. Next to it, there is not enough snow. We can't complain. It's warm, not too cold. The weather is great. There is enough snow, at least on the slopes, and so it couldn't be better.
However, the spokesman for the local cable car operator said his team had learned not to plan too far ahead.
We are enjoying the day today, and we are ensuring all measures are carried out so that we can operate the ski lifts. What happens tomorrow, we can't say at this point.
Hours later, the state premier of Bavaria, where the Zugspitze is located, announced a lockdown for unvaccinated people from next week. German Health Minister Jens Spahn said that a nationwide lockdown, including for vaccinated people, could not be ruled out amid a reported spike in cases. Joy Duguid, NTD News.
After years of local campaigning, the Dartmoor line became the first beneficiary of the government's program to reverse past cuts to the rail system. It cost £40 million to get the 25-mile line back up and running. 10 million under budget. At the end of the line, the town of Oakhampton is now the first rail gateway into the Dartmoor National Park, allowing nature lovers access to the moors and tours without needing a car. NTD's Joy Duguid brings us this report.
The train arriving on Platform 1 has been delayed by nearly 50 years. The railway line to Oakhampton in Devon was closed in 1972. But after a campaign lasting a decade, the 6:30 from Exeter marks the return of a regular train service.
50 years of no line at all, brilliant. Opens up Dartmoor, doesn't it?
The line reopens as the government reverses rail cuts.
So it will serve three things mainly: leisure people coming to the mall, people commuting into Exeter or going into Exeter for shopping, and academic users, students and so on. So it serves all sorts of things.
Locals embrace the new service. Full carriages shoot through the Devonshire countryside.
How often are you going to be using this line?
We'll be using it to go shopping and things at the weekends, as it's cheaper than driving and parking.
Definitely more than 3 times a week. I visit my girlfriend in Plymouth and I go to college in Exeter.
To reopen the line, bridges were repaired, new track laid and undergrowth cut back. Local experts say it was £40 million well spent.
We've got a huge area which is a rail desert otherwise here, so this is going to become the oasis for a few 100,000 people that have very poor access to the rail network up until now.
Oakhampton reopened as part of a government scheme, with funding for 40 stations and lines across England and Wales. It's the end of the line for now, but there's a campaign to extend the track all the way to North Cornwall. Joy Duguid, NTD News.
The new Marvel Studios television series Hawkeye is set to premiere on Disney Plus today, and a new comic book character will star in the franchise's latest production. Here's NTD's Andrew Thomas with the details.
The latest Marvel Studios television series Hawkeye initially appears to be about the further adventures of Clint Barton from the Avengers franchise, played by Jeremy Renner.
More complicated.
But it could be argued it's about new character Kate Bishop, played by Haley Steinfeld.
You're Hawkeye!
Since her first appearance, Bishop has become an extremely popular character with fans.
It was awesome finding who she was and what her voice sounded like and what she looked like, how she dressed and everything down to the hair and makeup. It was a real collaboration figuring out who she was, and pulling elements from the comics was definitely something that we wanted to do.
I think the focus for me for this particular one is let's make sure we land Kate Bishop first, because I mean, the MCU has so many heroes, right? So many moving parts.
Are you one of those people?
The series is set in the run-up to Christmas as Barton wants to get back to his family. But because of Bishop, he gets stuck in New York, where he runs into old enemies.
I mean, and we made this, around this time last year, so we were, I was personally getting into the Christmas spirit myself, and it was fun to go to work every day and be in this beautiful festive Christmas setting.
Even in May, when we're still shooting.
Yeah, that's true.
Bishop is prominent in the comic books, and Steinfeld is expected to become a big player in the Marvel franchise. But for now, she's sworn to secrecy.
It's challenging. I am so happy that at this moment I can at least talk about the fact that I'm in the show. That is confirmed, and that it's coming out, and we had a great time. Everything beyond that, I still have to hold myself back.
The first 2 episodes of Hawkeye will stream on Disney Plus today, November 24th.
Holy there are arrows more dangerous than that one?
Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
Just some Christmas.
And that's it for now. Remember to catch us again tonight at 6:30 Eastern. Thanks for watching. See you tomorrow.
Thanks for watching us on YouTube. Did you know YouTube only keeps selective videos on its platform? So if you want to make sure you get the full picture, just subscribe to our newsletter. Go to newsletter.ntd.com and sign up. It's free.